Welcome back to the class, everyone. Today we are going to be continuing our little mini series thingamabob about 3v3. 3v3 is still 1 week away, so there's still time to prep for it. There's still upgrades to be made, there's still mods to be changed, and there's still a lot going on. So we went over in a previous video the 10 defensive teams that are going to be returning. There's a lot of new things that are shifting around, but there's a lot of the older teams that we've already used in past seasons that are still really valid and still should be seeing the light of day. So like I said, we went over the defensive teams. In this video, I want to cover the 10 offensive teams that are going to be making a comeback. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. The first team we're going to be looking at is Jedi Knight Revan. So Jedi Knight Revan here, this team is just really complete. Him being able to ignore the taunts, Jolie providing a massive amount of survivability, and Grandmaster Yoda being able to do all the damage. They really do everything you need them to do. They're just kind of a world beater. And one of the teams that I like to use them against the most, it's really common in 3v3, is that dumb Emperor Palpatine. This might actually be seen a lot less now that Mara's in the game. But the Emperor Palpatine, Bastila Fallen, and Malak team, this team just destroys it because they have no way around the initial tenacity up with Jedi Knight Revan and the tenacity up that Grandmaster Yoda gives. The one thing I will say here is you can maybe substitute Jolie here for Bastila Fallen. That is nice in some cases, because something a lot of people don't realize is Jedi Knight Revan has like no potency at all if Bastila Fallen is, or not Bastila Fallen, but Bastila isn't present. You really need her present if you're going to need the potency to take something down, especially like Nest. If they have a high tenacity Nest, this team right here will just straight out time out against her. So speaking of our girl Nest, here she is. So this team I think is still going to see the light of day here in this 3v3. It's still really good. I mean, think of all the teams that we're going to be able to womp in 3v3. Nest can probably kill half of those, maybe 3/4, something to that extent. It's a very similar idea as Wampa. You load her up with tenacity, she can't get those detrimental debuffs, and then she just sticks it out until she builds up enough offense or crit damage in her case, and just kills everyone. We made actually a really popular video, I think our most popular video ever, about all the teams that Nest kills in 3v3, because it is a very, very large list. I can probably link that up here in the top. Yeah, so that's going to be a main team. I mentioned how the Jedi Knight Revan team had no survivability, a good leadership, a good damage dealer. That's all Nest. Nest does all those things. She ignores taunt. She has protection regen, or not protection regen, but the building protection that she can hide behind as a shell, and then stack and crit damage. She is the full package. Also, ignore these little headings here. These were the teams that I was using these to beat against last season, and some of them are very weird. But that being said, the next team we're going to look at, and this one I'm a little hesitant to put this one in, because there's quite a bit that can be done with Dark Trooper with the new Imperial Remnant tag. Well, not the new tag, no, but Moff Gideon's new lead that is coming in. It looks like there's a lot of potential for Dark over there. But until that really solidifies, I want to continue to use this team. This team is very, very good. It was consistently beating both Darth Revan, and I think we primarily were using it against CLS. The CLS 3PO Troopio comp that we actually showed in the last video. It's very solid against that. You do need to tinker with the team's speed a little bit more than 5v5 if you want to use it more reliably. In 5v5, you typically want Veers very slow in an effort to get him to always go last, even if he accidentally gives himself speed up by assisting. That being said, it's not really the case to be able to, in 3v3, to be able to bridge the turn meter in this team, it's a little bit more difficult. Like 240, like this is still modded for 5v5. 241 Dark is not going to take a turn after 355 Piet with the 20% turn meter that he's giving from Veers Unique. So it's still a really great team, but if you're wanting to use it to its fullest effect, you're going to have to speed up both Dark and Veers and get them within that turn meter train limit that Piet is going to be providing. Next up, we're going to actually look at, this actually makes me really sad. So this team, I had to modify it a little bit. This was my favorite 3v3 team, probably since its inception. The only thing we're changing here is in the place of Nihilus, we used to use Wampa, and it was just a fantastic team because you put the tank tech on L3, she just tanks it all until the end. You would put the attack tap on Wampa, or you could put on Darth Nihilus too, and then you just wait, because Wampa just builds up offense and destroys everyone. Nihilus is a pretty good swap for this. This actually, the Sith Triumvirate being more important this time around, you might not want to use this, but I'm probably still going to use it in the very beginning just because my Sith trio isn't very good. But it's the same concept. Watt puts the tank tech out onto L3, puts the attack tech, or rather the TM tech, is really how we need to think about with Darth Nihilus, onto him, and eventually you just beat all the timeout teams of the world because Nihilus will just eat them. And you don't really have to worry about him taking any of the damage because L3 will be doing that in the meantime. We use this comp a lot against Night Sisters. Again, we used Wampa in the previous seasons, but Darth Nihilus should work fine in there as well. Next team up is going to be Padme. This one is going to also change a little bit depending on your roster. So we've been promoting Jedi Anakin highly in the Qui-Gon Jinn team. However, Padme, GK, Ahsoka, or Padme, GK, and just another generic Galactic Republic are still going to be really, really, really nice. They are much harder to deal with in 3v3 against some teams. Pretty much any team that doesn't have a way around max health damage, because they just are able to dish out so quickly and so fast. You can actually put Grandmaster Yoda here. Maybe even Mace, he gives, I think, a little bit of... I don't actually remember if he gives protection up. I don't think he does. But there's other GR characters you can put in this lineup that'll be able to produce the similar results. I think one of the biggest teams we always use this against was that really annoying Hux team that had Hux, Lobster, and First Order Stormtrooper, because you just end up generating so much protection up from the assists, and then you just kill them. They can't do anything about it. Next team up is going to be our JTR R2 BB-8. Team is pretty just much fantastic. This team was born at around the time that JTR was still being used with like Resistance Trooper and Scavenger Ray. And this one really shined because, no offense to those two characters, but this was always the core. These three were always the best. And when the teams originally that were always the best in 3v3 were the ones that had a strong 3-core and 5v5, that you really just had two extras here. And JTR really just fits the mold perfectly. They can be used to beat a lot of teams. Tons of control between turn meter and debuffs and stealth. There's a lot of things that team can do. Next team is going to be a bounty hunter team. And this one, similar to what we were talking about the Padme team, there's also quite a bit of flexibility here. The two key units are the Mandalorian and Grief Karga. Like, those have to be in here. They provide a lot of things. You could probably swap in, depending on what you're wanting to do, Zam, Dengar. Bosk is probably the most ideal one, if we're being honest, but I'm probably going to be pulling Bosk mostly for defense, at least in the very beginning before things get going. So, but the reason why we have Embo here, and I'm not going to preach a lot about Embo, but the 50% health steal and the pretty easily achievable contract between, two of the characters having buff dispels, and then Mando can just, aim for a character that doesn't have buffs, assuming there is one. You can get contract up pretty quickly. And I like the 50% health steal because it'll keep the team alive, and that's all you need to do with Mando. As long as he stays alive, he will eventually get his disintegrates off, and you win. Next team, this is one of my favorites. This is one of the ones that I think really, really shines in 3v3, whereas in 5v5, it's really fallen out of favor. And that's going to be Crew, First Order Executioner, and First Order Officer. Just a really, really fun team. This, again, not quite to the level that Jedi Knight Revan was, but this, for me, was a world beater. Like, we were using this very consistently against all those Newt, Django, DDK, or Nest comps, whatever it was, just because a 2-turn stun, like, this is a pretty old kit, but this right here in 3v3 was just so absurdly broken. A 2-turn stun on a character in 3v3, especially if you stun the Cleanser, they're just totally screwed. And then both Fox and First Order Officer reduce turn meter, and they have a ton of turn meter gain built into the lead, as well as First Order Executioner as well. So you can just really lap people, especially with the added 30 speed that comes with career lead. Really, really like this. Like I said, for me, it was kind of a world beater. One of the challenges that I had last 3v3 was like, okay, I have two teams. Crew can beat either. Who's going to beat the other one? And that's really the position that he took. Next up is going to be Bad Batch. So this team is pretty new. It is an older team. We were able to use it last 3v3, but it is somewhat newer. So not a lot of people have a lot of experience with it. But it's Hunter, Hunter and Echo. And then a lot of people will either switch out Tech or Rekka for the last position here. I personally like Tech because I like to get the guaranteed stun right off the rip. I don't want to have to wait for Rekka to get Furious or whatever it is, because that's going to take quite a few turns, especially without two Bad Batch starting here. So I like to take the three of them. I mean, the mechanics are very simple. You re-pop whatever the buffs were, and then you stun them. That's exactly what it is. Same thing as 5v5, and this works against some really good teams. The CLS team and a really popular really popular team that was left on defense a lot, pretty much up until now, is Rex 5's Barris. This also does really well against it because Rex will use his form up. He's typically faster because of his unique, and then Echo goes, rips the tenacity up off, you stun him, and then you do a ton of damage to him. So it's very, very good, very, very effective, and there's a little bit of flexibility in who you're going to use there. So this team is the reason why we have Jolie in the Janet Revan lead team instead of Bastila, because this team slaps. And again, there is going to be a little bit of flexibility here. Bastila Shan Fallen is I keep saying Bastila Shan Fallen. Bastila Shan is the main contributor here as the leader. This is just super, super nice. 200 protection up, so you're gonna pretty much be able to get 54 banners against anything. Hoda's nice as well. Not exactly hard required. You can use other characters too, like Ayla, that also call to assist. And then Kiadi Mundi also is not 100% necessary. One of the characters that we've been talking about that can maybe be a replacement. I personally am going to be putting Mace with Qui-Gon, but a lot of people are talking about putting Cam with Qui-Gon, which is totally valid. But the character that you can slot in here, if you don't want to do Cam, is actually Kyle Katarn as well. We've talked a lot about Kyle Katarn on Jedi Squads, and one of the things that he loves the most is constantly being called to assist so that he can start getting all of his buffs and be able to put out more debuffs like he does. So, and you could use this comp, because with this comp, you have at least 2 ways to call him to assist pretty consistently. I mean, that's pretty much all Hermer Yoda does. So, that is going to be it for offense for 3v3. We do have some more 3v3 videos coming out, so make sure to be tuned for those. And as always, stay awesome.